Hi guys! So it's Super Icarus here, going to talk about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. At first I'm just going to put a little bit of insight on what happens in the book, and then at the end of the video I will give you guys my insight on how I felt about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the book, just in case if you guys decide that, hey, you might want to read it. I don't want to put too much spoilers into it, so that way, hey, I know what's going to happen. I don't really need to finish it. She already covered it all, But if, I do go too far into it, I still recommend reading it. It was definitely a 5 out of 5. Wonderful book. Absolutely gorgeous. So it's called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. The main character is Pip. She is the main female. She first comes into play as a graduating girl in high school. Let me rearrange. A girl in high school, going around her hometown of Fairview, Connecticut, looking for information on a 5-year-old murder case of Andy Bell and Sal. Andy and Sal were both a couple in high school. They ended up falling in love and all that good stuff, Later in the book, it does discuss that Andy did have a secret relationship with an older gentleman who Pip ends up trying to find out who he was and what does he have to do with all this? Who is he and why is he such a big thing? Right? I mean, when you're doing a murder case and looking into information like this, you want to get all the facts straight, because false information can be really bad, right? Right. So she ends up doing this murder case on a school project. A capstone project is what they call it, which from my understanding, I guess in their school, a capstone project for a senior is like a really huge part of your grade. I'm not too sure. I don't believe it mentioned it in the book on which class it's for. It might be for an extra activity type class. I don't think it was like a main class like history or science or English or something like that. But it was definitely a big part of her grade, and she really wanted to make a good impact on it. She wanted a good grade, especially with her wanting to go into a decent college and all that good stuff, So she ends up going into this case, and she goes to talk to Ravi. Ravi Sai is the younger brother to Sal. She ends up going up to him, stops into his house, conversates beforehand. Hey, I'm going to stop by and have a conversation with you about the case, about dealing with your brother. I end up wanting to clear his name and make it seem like he's not the criminal here, let him lay to rest, properly, and not everybody hating on him saying he's a killer, he's the bad guy, he killed Andy. We don't want that. So Pip ends up going over to Ravi's house with bribery muffins. Bribery, something yummy. So he'll talk. Okay, you gave me food, I talk. Type situation, right? that type of situation. So when she gives him the bribery muffins, he's like, okay, so what do you want? What do you want to talk about? I understand you want to talk about my brother, so it's not really an easy topic for me or my family. What do you need in order to make this better? What do you need to leave me alone type situation? That's the type of vibe he gives off in the beginning. I really don't want to talk to you. You're kind of you're here and I don't want you to be here. So he ends up warming up slowly, giving her some of the information on who Sal was. What type of guy was he? Was he abusive towards Andy? Was he mean towards her? Did they ever get into really bad arguments? How long were they together? All that type of information, She does end up recording their conversation on her phone, on an app or something like that. I mean, most phones have a recording app, right? So she ends up recording their information, their discussion, their talk, their, I guess you would say their interview, That's the right word, I think, would be it for the subject. He ends up giving her the answers she wants, type of answers that he thinks would help with the case. She ends up going back home, looking into what he says, putting it in her report, putting bits and pieces into it, not the whole conversation, because it could have been like 3-4 hour conversation. We don't know. We just read it, right? I mean, yeah, we don't know how many daytime hours. So after that, Ravi tells her he doesn't want to discuss it with her, especially not with his parents' home, because it's still really hard on his mom, being the good boy, being the good son, trying, his mom's still really heartbroken over her baby boy being gone and all that good stuff. After that, he ends up interacting with her again, approaching her, saying, hey, I respect for what you're trying to do, clearing my brother's name. Is there any way that you would consider allowing me to help you? I want to prove Sal's innocence. I want to say that he's not guilty. He did not kill Andy. I want to help. After some consideration, talking, thinking it over, Pip's like, yeah, sure, go for it. You can help. Just try not to get in my way. Pip is, what I'm understanding, she is a highly big perfectionist, especially with school projects. She's got to get everything on the key, everything right, everything proper, right? She's a perfectionist, She's got to get everything right to the key, right to the point, But after that, she ends up going to Naomi Ward. Naomi Ward is Kara Ward's older sister. Kara is a really good friend to Pip. Naomi was a good friend to Sal. They had a small group of a couple people. I do believe Jamie is one of them. We'll find out more information on him in the next book. Naomi and Max Hastings. Max Hastings is a very, 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 very bad guy. He does not make it hard not to like him. I tried. I thought, maybe he's a kid. He's having a rough past, rough situation. No, this guy's bad. He bad. He is bad news. And we'll talk about that here today. Yeah, he's not a good guy. So they end up going to Naomi, talking to her about the situation. She explains to her, hey, I understand you're going through Max Hastings' Facebook account trying to get information on the case and all that good stuff. You're using the wrong name. She ends up giving her the right name, so she looks it up. She finds some photos from the night Sal and Andy both disappeared. She finds out Sal couldn't have killed Andy. Why? Because there was an old photo there. A photo with a time that was stated that he's already been gone and left. He's already been gone, How did he take the picture? And you could see Sal in the background, his reflection in the window. And then there's a time saying 10:30. How would he have left already if he's standing there taking the photo? The time of Andy's death, if he's there. So there's no way for him to leave. Interesting. So we end up going further into the details, looking at more information. Max Hastings, we say, hey, who were you to Sal? What did you know about him? And he's explaining he was a good friend of mine and all that good stuff. I would never do anything to hurt him, or why would I hook up with my best friend's girl? Well, buddy, darling, you weren't hooking up with her, but you weren't exactly innocent in this situation either. You may not have been her killer, but you were just as bad. So we find out Andy Bell is a dealer. She ends up selling drugs to the high school students in the book. Obviously, I'm going to say in the book, so I'm not in trouble. So she ends up selling Rufinol. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, so if I'm not, just correct me in the comments, She ends up selling that to him, which is a very bad drug if it's not used properly. Some of them, sometimes doctors will prescribe it for pain and other things like that, He was not using it for that. He was not. Unfortunately, what he was doing with that drug was something unspeakable. He was using it to take advantage of girls in school. Becca Bell was one of the girls, and so was Nat Selvey and several other women. Becca Bell was Andy Bell's little sister, younger sister. Not a kid, but high schooler, younger grade, just still, it doesn't matter. That should never have happened to her. And Max ends up saying, I never did that to her. I never touched her. I never touched any of those girls. Well, how do you figure you didn't do that? Because they didn't say no. He drugged those girls, so their mind wasn't thinking clearly. So basically what retinol does, and I did look it up, it makes the user slur speech, possibly loss of memory. Some situations it does make them black out. It gives them a weakness, respiratory depression, some really bad hard stuff, in large quantities and large amounts. That can be really, really, really bad to anybody, not just anyone. It's not good. One of the other situations that ended up happening is, she's trying to figure out, so she goes to Nat. Nat doesn't want to talk to her. She doesn't want to relive that. Why would she? Nat was one of the girls that looked a lot like Andy. Andy was one of those preppy girls. We all know those girls, right? We all have one of those in our schools, or had one of them in our grades, that their nose was so far up in the air, they walked on the clouds, right? One of those, I am better than all of you. And she felt threatened by Nat because she was just as pretty and everything else. So Andy did some really mean things to her. She wrote her letters, put them in her locker. Threatening letters, not good letters. Another thing was she ended up posting a very inappropriate photo of Nat through the school's website. And sending it to everybody in that school's phone numbers. So everybody's seeing this very indisposure photo of Nat. Natalie was, I'm going to call her Natalie because I'm pretty sure that's what her whole name is. Nat was devastated. That's me. Why is it going all over the school? Why is everybody seeing this photo of me? I didn't send it out there. Where did it come from? Well, it ended up coming from Andy. But was that enough for Nat to be the killer? I don't know. I mean, that's pretty hurtful, and it's really bad, especially with me being a bigger girl. If somebody were to do that to me, I'd be pissed. I'd be ticked off, Forget that idea. I would not be happy at all. The next situation is she was seeing an older mystery man, as I've stated before, but we still don't know who he is. Max Hastings mentions something about a Howie Bowers. So Pip does her research, looking into him. Who is Howie? Where is he? How do I get in touch with him? Well, nobody's speaking up because Howie's the big drug dealer. He's the big guy. He's the big boss. He's the mafia guy. Scary. Yikes. Maybe we should stay away from this fellow, right? She does not. She ends up going to one of these school parties, right, with a group of her friends. Obviously, Robbie is not one of these friends because he did not like the idea of her going to this and doing any of this situation. He said, no, Pip, this is not safe. This ends now. We gotta stop. One of us is gonna get hurt. With not only that, but she was starting getting threatening letters and messages sent to her phone. Hey, Pip, stop digging. Stop looking. Stop searching. Stop getting information. And she's too adrenaline rush, and she's too headstrong, too stubborn. She doesn't want to stop. She wants answers. She wants to know why. Who did it, and why did they do this to Andy? That and another one of the biggest questions is, this murder was 5 years ago. Where's her body? Nobody has found Andy's body. They believe Sal killed her, but they still haven't found a body because Sal committed suicide, says in the book, they believe Sal committed suicide after what he did to Andy. So, oh God, this is horrible, he killed her, and he texted his parents, I killed her. Stop looking. I'm the murderer. I killed Andy. I was jealous. I was angry with her, and it went too far and above and beyond, and I accidentally killed her. Well, he was not the killer, unfortunately. So even though the police believed it and they had the evidence sent from his phone and everything else, they were finding blood on Sal's clothing in the back of his car, all that good stuff. They believed it. They believed Sal was the killer. Okay, so he really did this. He did this, Case closed. Sometimes it's that easy in murder cases. It's just a little bit here and there, and that's all it takes. Somebody confesses, okay, they give you all the information, okay, you got to be right, you did it, right? You did the killing. He did not. So after that, we end up going back to the party. We end up talking to some questionable teenagers, right? We go to the kids that stand outside the party, and they're doing their drugs, smoking their pot, taking pills, and all that good stuff. Pip tries to fit into that crowd just so she gets the information that she needs for her project. She's going far into this project. I don't know about you, but me, unfortunately, as much as I did do a lot in my school projects, I would not have gone that far. I mean, I may have had a few troubled times, but I would not have gone that far into a school project. Nope. That's a little extreme, you know what I mean? But anyways, she ends up going into this, and she's talking about it all, and she's acting like she's smoking her joint and everything else. She's like, hey, this is really good stuff. Where'd you get it? The guy's like, I have a dealer, and I can't tell you where, but I could get you some if you really want it. She's like, no. I want to get it from the source. I don't trust you. You might put something into it that might be harmful. Stuff like that. He's like, well, I'm not giving you my source. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that. If I do that, I'm in really big trouble with my boss, the big guy. He'd get really mad at me. I'd be in trouble. So that's making Howie Bowers look more and more suspicious. She ends up using this guy's phone. I don't remember. I don't remember the guy's name. He was only mentioned like a few short times in the book. So don't come after me. If you've read the book and you know which character I'm talking about, please comment it. Because, yeah. He's very questionable. So he tries to swoop in for a kiss and, get a little touchy-feely going on with her. She pushed him. She pushed him over the balcony. No, sir. No, thank you. All that good stuff. No, thank you. See, she uses his phone, and she texts herself the phone number to the guy that he's getting the drugs from. And she messages him, hey, can we meet? From the gentleman's phone. He's like, yeah. You ran out already? Yeah, I did. I need some more of that good stuff, She ends up meeting him. She doesn't get out of the car. She doesn't know if this gentleman is the right guy. She sits in her car. She watches him in a dark alley. Very creepy. Also, she also went along to this, too. This girl is going above and beyond and going to really fishy places alone. I'm telling you what. No, I would not go that far. No, thank you. I am not going to a sus location in a dark alley alone. I'm sorry. Nope. I give her W's for that, though. I give you W's. If you want to go into a place like that alone, by all means, all power to you. Just let somebody know where you're going. So if you don't come back, they know where to go look for you. So she ends up meeting this gentleman. She's watching him. She's videotaping him on her phone, being very sus, very quiet, not to be noticed. After he meets with this final client, which ended up being Stanley was one of them. We'll talk more about Stanley in the next book. Daniel DeSilve, which is Nat DeSilve's brother, and also a very trustworthy officer of the law in Fairview, Connecticut. So what were they doing there? Paying off all debts? And there was another gentleman that showed up. I'm not too sure who it was. I don't remember, because, I've read the whole series, and I wanted to make a video on all three of them. All three of them together, so you guys aren't reading together so long. For granted, it doesn't take me that long to read a book, so she ends up following this guy back to his place. He walks back there. She follows him in the dark, in the middle of the night. She's quiet, watching her step, making sure he doesn't look back to see her, anything like that. All that good stuff. She's being really careful, being very extremely, very careful. I give her toodles for that. She's being careful. Well, they end up approaching his house. She sees Andy's car. Andy's dead. Why is her car at this guy's house? At this point, she's realized, okay, this is too much. I should not be here alone. So she writes down the address on how she got there, and she leaves. She goes back and finds Ravi. Ravi, hey, I got information. I got something for us. We gotta go figure this out, right? We gotta figure Sal's innocence, we gotta figure out what happened to Andy. Come on, let's go. Ravi's like, hold up, Sarge. That's Ravi's nickname for Pip. It's actually kind of cute. Pip, hey, Sarge, Sergeant, hold up, what are we doing? That's what's going on in his head. We're doing what now? She's like, I got information on the drug dealer that Andy was buying drugs from. He's like, huh? My brother was dating this chick. She's a what now? Because Sal was a, grade A student. Top of the class, on the honor rolls type situation. So why would a kid like that be dating a drug dealer? Well, he didn't know she was. Or maybe he did. I mean, it was stated in the book they did have an argument. Was it due to the mystery guy? Was it due to the drugs? Was it something else? We never know. For granted, you do end up finding out in the book if you end up reading it. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into it. So they end up going to Howie Bauer's house. They go together, thankfully. She doesn't go back alone, thankfully. But yeah, she ends up going back there. She ends up going to Mr. Howie Bauer's house. And they knock up on the door. Howie answers the door. What can I do for you two? How do you know where I am? Pip's up there, all tall and mighty. I want information on Andy Bell, and you're going to give it to me. Excuse you, say what? I'm gonna do what now? And what leverage do you have? She pulls out her phone. Well, I've got this information. She shows him the video that she took of him selling drugs and taking money from Stanley and Daniel and everybody else. He's like, oh, okay, where'd you get that? Oh, I watched you. Ravi, being the big protective fella, stands in between them. You're not gonna hurt her. I'm right here, but then again, please don't hit me. I'm kind of scared of you, dude. You're a big guy. The way I picture Howie Bowers, is this big, tall, scary, kind of disformed face, bald-headed. I'm not stereotyping, but that's the way I see Howie. He's the big guy. He's the big, tall, muscular, overstocky, like a security guard type, And here comes Ravi, just a little, not little, but not big, He's just like, I might die tonight situation, That's got to be the thought that's going through this guy's head, this chick has got me going on a wild goose chase to clear up my brother's name, and we're at a drug dealer's house. How did I get here? I just want to know if my brother's innocent. I want to know if he killed her. Not, oh God, I might die today. So they end up talking, right? He's explaining, Andy's gonna be back. I don't believe she's dead. She's gonna be back. She owes me a lot of money. She's gonna be back. Sorry, buddy. She not coming back unless you believe in ghosts and spooks. I don't think she's coming back. And if she's coming back as a ghost, I don't think she means good details. I think she means business, real big business. Obviously, they talk about it. He gives her some more information. She was seeing an older guy. It wasn't me. And stating all those other things. Pip believes him, She's like, okay. Innocent until proven guilty situation, He's good. He didn't do it. Well, then the question still remains. Who killed Andy? Where's her body? Where's the corpse? where is she? She ends up going back home later that night. And she's looking through her articles. She's looking through the paperwork. They do end up breaking into Andy's and Becca's house. Like I stated, she tried to find the burner phone, the drugs, and all that good stuff. She didn't find it, but she almost got caught by Andy's little sister, Becca. Thankfully, her and Ravi hid in the closet, and Becca didn't look in the closet. Oh, good. That could have been bad. Really bad. Breaking it in or all over a school project. Oh, good. This girl is like, and she's trying to solve a case, and she's causing like 10 of the cases on her own, just trying to solve one. Well, 2, because Andy and Sal, but Jesus, really, you're going above and beyond here. So after that, she ends up going to talk, and she's looking in through her files. She's trying to realize who the mystery older guy is. He's been talked about in every one of these interviews. She doesn't want to believe it, right? So she takes a minute to think it over. Takes a couple days. Her and her dog goes outside for a walk. Her dog, what says in the book, is a golden retriever, beautiful dog, and his name is Bunny. I do believe her younger brother Josh named the dog, because it's a cute name, but I don't know personally if I would name my golden retriever Bonnie, especially when it's a boy. I don't know if I'd name my boy dog Bonnie. That sounds like a girl name, you know what I mean? But Josh is just a kid, so maybe he did name her, name him or something like that, Cute name, but no diss in there. So ended up finding out Bonnie was killed. And the message, she received another message on her phone. I told you. Stop looking. Stop looking. Leave it alone. Drop it. Well, when Bonnie ends up going missing, she's devastated. She gets another message. Bring the information. Bring your laptop and bring everything you've got. And I'll give you back your dog. I don't know about you, but I love my dogs. I've always loved my animals. So if somebody tells me that, okay, no questions asked. I'll give you what you want. Give me back my puppy dog. Right? We all love our doggies, our furry friends. And sometimes scaly friends. Some of us have snakes. Some of us got spiders. We love our pets, right? No matter what shapes or sizes and textures they got. We would go to the end of the earth for our pets, right? Some of us consider our pets like our kids in some aspects, So she ends up going, giving this some stuff, and she gets another message. She's out in the middle of the woods where she lost a dog. Break it. Destroy it all. So she does. She breaks her phone, which had all the little clips and recordings from the interviews. She broke her laptop, smashed it, stomped on it, all that good stuff, and broke the SIM card, all that good deeds, and said, all right, I broke it. Give me back my dog. Well, she never got the dog back. She goes back home, talks to her family. Hey, Dad, Mom, Mom and Dad, Bonnie came up missing, and I've been trying everything I could do to find him, and I can't find him. He's not coming back. Dad's like, okay. It's been a few days, and I haven't seen him either. We'll go look for him, right? They're searching and everything. They don't find him. A couple days go by, they're still looking for Bonnie. Dad ends up finding him. The dad ends up finding the dog in a creek. It was stated that Bonnie went swimming and he drowned. Horrible situation, absolutely devastating. It's actually probably the one and only time I almost cried in the book. Jesus. Oh, I'll read a lot of things. You know, I like watching movies sometimes about it, but seeing an animal die is not my cup of tea. Or reading about it, it's not something I like to talk about. What on earth is going on in my living room? I think Mr. Overray's out there is getting angry at a video game. I'm pretty sure he's dying in a game. Sometimes he does it. You know, the boys in their games. So back to the book. I don't think that helped. Get that? A little better. So ended up, you know, like I stated before, she finds her dog, right? It's gone. So she goes, finds Ravi. Her and Ravi end up becoming really good friends, close friends, and he feels really bad. Pip, I'm so sorry about your dog. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. She's like, Ravi, this is over. We can't keep digging. This person's warned me several times to stop digging. To leave it alone. Because it's going to get bad. Really bad. And it did. My dog. What's next? My brother, my mom, my dad, me? You know, her? Who's next? Ravi's like, we can't stop. We're so close. We can't stop. Not yet. We can't stop yet. We're close to clearing Ravi's name. We're close to finding out who really killed Andy. You know, what about your paper? She's like, no. I'll talk to my teacher. I'll come up with a new subject to do my project on. Ravi's like, no, this isn't you, Pip. This isn't Sarge. This isn't Sergeant. We're not done. What happened to your laptop? I had to break it. You know? She had to break it in order to hopefully get her dog back. So what's Ravi do? He goes, gets her his own laptop and brings it to her. Here, use this. I don't know if you have your files backed up, but we're going to figure this out, and we're going to figure this out now. I want to know if my brother really did this. You know, I want to know if we're hating Sal for a reason that he shouldn't be hated. You know, he's explaining that every time he walks down the street, everybody looks at him. You're the brother of the murderer. And they cross the street. They don't give Ravi a chance because they all believe Sal was the murderer. And he did some unspeakable things to a very well-known teenager of that town. So she's like, okay, fine. Logs into her email, does all their little and brings it all back up. They're reading through her stuff that she's got, you know, reading through the articles, reading through the information she's got, everything she's got typed out for this project she's got, you know. At this point, it's not even a project anymore, I don't believe. I mean, damn, she's gone through a lot for one project. She better be getting an A. At this point, she better be getting an A++. Dang. I mean, I'm sorry, but that type of information and that type of stress she's going through, she better be getting a dang good grade. Well, we end up finding out, we end up looking more into the information. More of the information as to who did what happened. She does one of those, like, boards on the wall with pictures of who she believes was the killer and who did what, and does the red string all the way around it, you know, traces it all back. And always goes back to one person, Mr. Elliot Ward. Mr. Ward, teacher, class teacher, tutorer. You know, he could have been tutoring Andy. Well, Mr. Ward is our mystery older man. He's the one that was with Andy too, not just Sal. We end up finding out Andy wasn't that good girl that we all thought she was. She was good, but she definitely did some questionable things. You know what I mean? She did some pretty bad stuff. Excuse me. I don't know if you heard that. But she did some pretty questionable things, you know. Not only was she cheating on Sal, but she was selling drugs, you know. Sold some drugs that got her sister and other girls in some really big trouble, you know. Made them go through some really bad things. I don't know about you, but that's not a really good person in my book, but even though nobody deserves to be killed. Now, besides, you know, people that did what happened to Becca. So, ended up, we found out Elliot Ward was a very big suspect. Pip, being the girly she is, goes to confront Mr. Ward alone. This girl, I swear to God, I'm gonna lock her in a closet and be like, hey, stop going to questionable places alone. Are you crazy? Hello. Stop this. You're being crazy, girl. You're nuts. Going to these locations alone. You think you found out who the killer is to a girl about the same age as you are right now. Why are you going there alone? Are you nuts? Evidently. She ends up going to Mr. Ward's place alone. Well, she gets more information first. You know, she goes to his office in his house. Sees the notes that were printed off from his computer that was sent in her locker and her sleeping bag and all that other stuff. Okay, Elliot Ward's really pumped his place up in the list, right? I don't know about you, but Elliot Ward seems really suspicious. Elliot, good God. She ends up talking to Kara. Kara, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right either. The little sister of the Wards, Naomi's sister. Hey, didn't you guys have a different house? Didn't you move here from somewhere after your mom passed away? Yeah, why? Do you remember the house number 12? I do believe is what they said. It was house number 12 on this street. I'm not going to say the street because I don't know if these are actual places. I don't think so because I'm pretty sure addresses have more than 2 numbers. But yeah. She's like, yeah, we did. He's like, and your dad inherited a lot of money after your mom died, right? Her life insurance. Yeah. So why is he doing after-school tutoring? He doesn't need it for the extra money. And then she's realizing, you know, there's times Mr. Ward comes home and he's got extra groceries and he leaves with these extra groceries. Where's he going with all this extra food? You know, little odd. So what's Pip does? In order to find out where Mr. Ward is going, she ends up acting like she twisted her ankle in PE gym class. And her friend Kara is like, hey, Dad, do you mind giving Pip a ride home? She injured her foot and she needs a ride home. Her mom's at work late. Her mom's a realtor, you know, had a late showing for one of the houses. Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely. Pip, the sneaky little thing she is, she hides her phone in Mr. Ward's car, right? So she could track it through Ravi's phone, finds out where he's going. He ends up going to that exact location Kara said that was his old house. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know about you, but it's getting really fishy and sassy. Hello, what did you do? Type vibes, you know? You did what now? So she ends up tracking her phone through Ravi's phone and goes alone. She ends up going to Mr. Ward's place alone in her own car. She gets there. She knocks on the door. Mr. Ward, I know what you did. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come clean before I call the police. Police will be here in 5. So, what's Ward do? He panics, He's like, oh God, she's figured it out. She's understanding what's really happening here. She knows, this is a smart girl. She knows what's going on. She knows what I did. I need to come clean. So he does. He panics and he tells her what happened to Andy. Andy was supposedly trying to destroy one of the paintings that Mr. Ward's wife painted him before she died. And, heartstrings, even though she's dead, that still hurts, It's something he's got of her that's a memory, something that he'll hold on to forever. Well, he ends up attacking Andy. He pushes her. He shoves her, and she hits the back of her head on the countertop. And, it wasn't enough to kill her, but it was hard enough to cause an injury, cracked her head open. Yeah, that type of thing. But she ends up walking away, getting up, walks away. Good. She walks away. Well, Mr. Ward, he's like, oh God, I got her blood in my house. What if she does end up dying tonight? I'm going to be suspect number 1. I've got to think about my girls, I got to think about my kids. What's going to happen to them? So he ends up cleaning his house really well with bleach and cleaning chemicals in order to remove the blood. He did keep some of the blood to frame Sal. He calls Sal. He knows Sal's taking this really hard and rough. He's like, hey, why don't you come over and we'll talk about your transcripts for college and all that good stuff. So Sal comes over. He's talking about it. He's talking about how he's feeling. Saying, hey, Mr. Ward, I really miss Andy. I wish she would just call. I wish she would come home. I want to know if she's okay. He's really worried about her, because even though Andy was a questionable character, questionable person, he still loved her. He's seen the good in her, Even though she gave all these red flags, I'm sure we've all had relationships that would shoot out red flags to us and we just ignore them, right? Because we love them. Red flags that we think, maybe we should think about our life choices. Those type, hello, what are we doing here? Well, Mr. Ward ends up, trying to act like he feels bad for Sal. It's going to be okay, Sal. You're at college next year and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, he's plotting on how to get rid of Sal. He said, here, take these little medications, little pills to help you sleep. Sal's confessed that he hasn't been able to sleep because he's worried about Andy and all that good stuff. So he ends up taking all these meds. He's like, here, just keep taking them. They'll help you sleep. They're out in the middle of the forest, he's taking these meds, taking these prescriptions, and he starts to get tired. Bum, 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 walking right into the trap. Right into the trap that was set for him. Mr. Ward ends up using a bag and covers his face, right? And he suffocates Sal. Well, Sal ends up passing away and dying. Everybody believes it was a suicide overdose, Well, that's because Mr. Ward took the bag. And he burned the bag. Plastic, done. Up in flames, bye-bye, there goes the proof. There goes the evidence. He ends up using Sal's phone and text to Sal's parents. I killed Andy. Stop looking. I killed her. Amongst those lines. Well, we know what happened to Sal. We know somewhat happened to Andy. But where is she? Where's the body? Well, Mr. Ward eventually finds driving down the street, and he finds a girl, a young high schooler girl, and she looks a lot like Andy. He picks her up. Hey, get in. He locks her up in the attic. Now, this girl, she's got thought process issues, right? You know, or she hit her head, I do believe. I think she actually hit her head in the book. And she believes she's Andy. You know, after how many times he's told her, you know, she was just on a bender. She was really high and she forgot everything situation. So they talk about that, you know, and while she's there, Pip, before the police shows up, she's hearing rustling in the attic. What is that noise? You know, what is that? So she grabs the keys that are sitting on the countertop and she runs upstairs, runs into the attic. At least Mr. Ward tries to stop her, but she quickly makes a quick arm turn and, you know, knocks him out for a minute so she could get up there and see if it's Andy. Because at this point, there's still not a body found, you know. Andy could be alive. She might have just had a really bad head injury. You know, like a big old chunk out of her back of the head missing. Pretty. Beautiful. You know, especially when it's all blood and gory. So after that, we end up having a conversation with the girl that's up the stairs in the attic, believing she's Andy. Police show up. Realize it's not Andy, it's another girl that came up missing several years ago. You know, around the same time Andy's, you know, murder. So, Ward was arrested. You know, he was ended up putting in jail and all that good stuff. He confessed to killing Sal. Ravi is relieved. He was relieved to an extent. He now knows that Sal was innocent. He was murdered. He did not kill Andy. Thankfully, he didn't kill her. But who did? Who killed Andy and where is she? So they go back to her house. She goes back. She was looking at the board again, looking at the information, and it's going back to Becca. Little Miss Becca Bell. So she goes over to Becca's house. Parents aren't home. Mr. Jason Bell, Donna Bell. Becca's realizing she knows too much. Pip, she tries to warn her. Police are going to be here any minute. If they figure out the information I did, you're going to be arrested. You need to get out of town. You need to leave. You know, she tried to warn her. You gotta go. You gotta go now and change your name, start a new life. Get out of here. You know, I don't care. Leave. Type situation. Gotta go. Becca's like, no. The secret dies with you. So she invites her in. She offers her a cup of tea. Cup of tea is laced with that drug that Max Hastings put in Becca's drinks and all those other girls' drinks, and you know, Pip ends up sipping at the tea, and Becca's like, "Here, I'll tell you what happened." So, I was, you know, touched by Max. I told my sister about it. I wanted her to be my sister and, you know, feel sorry for me. She wanting to help me and all this stuff, you know. Be my sister. I want to go to the police, but I don't want to go alone, get the rape test done and all that good stuff. She ends up not going. She's like, no, Becca, I can't. I sold him the drugs. I can't go. That would destroy my life. I can't go. There's no way I can. Becca gets furious and she's fueled with rage and she's fueled with anger. You know, I'm telling my sister what happened to me and she could care less what happened. Why don't she care, you know? She cares more about herself than her. She was selling all these drugs in order to get out of town and leave me here with Dad. Leave me here with Mom and everything else. It was horrible. So Becca gets really mad and she pushes Andy. She pushes her again. Andy, already dizzy from the first head injury, she can't exactly get up. Andy ended up choking on her own vomit and not being able to turn and get that up. She ended up dying. That's how Andy died. Becca, she's stated to be like an itty-bitty thing, a very small character. She somehow ends up picking up Andy's body and putting it in the back of her car and drives off to a abandoned farm in the side of town. And she pulls Andy out of the car, out of the trunk. She dumps the body in a old well, and she covers it. Andy's been there for 5 years, you know. I don't know about you, but I don't want to know what that would smell like. Hello, bad juju. Oh, it's gotta be a horrid smell. Ooh, I don't know about you, but no thank you. I have a sensitive stomach to certain things, so if I were to get a whiff of that, I might choke on my own vomit. So ended up finding out, she tells her, she confesses the situation. At this point, Pip's already halfway through the tea. She's starting to feel dizzy, lightheaded. Side effects from that drug, you know. She looks it up too, and she's like, oh God. Becca, what did you put in my drink? What did you put in the tea? She's like, oh, just some leftovers from Andy's stash. I can't let the secret get out, Pip. My dad's finally starting to notice me. I can't let you destroy my family again. I can't let it go down that way. Pip ends up losing control out of her legs. You know, being on substance like that, you can actually get really sick. You know, might lose feeling, dizziness, you know, all that good stuff that I stated before. Well, not good stuff, bad stuff. Ooh, bad. So she ends up tripping and falling, and Becca's attacking her, and she's using what strength she has left to fight Becca off. Do everything she possibly can to push this girl away. She doesn't want this to end. And thankfully, Ravi, on the other side of town at the memorial for Sal, is like, where's Pip? Why ain't she here yet? She was supposed to be here hours ago. She's still not there. So he's using his phone, looking up her location. Where is she? Okay, this is not good. She's there. You know, so him and her father, Pip's dad, Victor, they rush over there. They find Pip on the ground outside, and Becca over top of her with her hands around her throat, choking her, trying to make the process speed up. Thankfully, Victor tackles Becca. Not to hurt her, just to get her off his daughter, you know, his stepdaughter. Gets her off her. Ravi's checking her over, making sure she's still alive. She's alive, but she's slipping. So they call the ambulance. The ambulance gets there, ends up pumping her stomach, get all that stuff out of her so she can live, you know. With that amount, you don't know how much she's taken and how much was in her system. It could have easily have overdosed her, and she could have died too. They ended up saving her life. Thankfully, they ended up saving her. Case was solved. They ended up arresting both Becca and Elliot. Becca ended up confessing to the murder, you know, all that good stuff. They ended up receiving Andy's body from the well and laying her body to rest, letting her rest in peace, you know, situations. Sal, his name is cleared. You know, he's no longer thought as the boy that killed the girlfriend. He's no longer the bad guy, you know. He was truly innocent in the beginning, you know. Stanley, he ended up apologizing, not wanting to talk to Pip in the beginning on the situation and all that good stuff. And we talk more about Stanley in the next book, by the way. He's actually a very, very, very good character. He ends up having a bad past, but we'll talk about that later. So, ended up finding out, you know, Pip did it. She did it. You know, she starts a podcast called The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, getting the story out there. She turns in her paper, gets a good grade on it. Heck yeah. You know, after that much work, I'd hope so. Jesus. Sorry about that. I have an itch and I'm using my phone because I don't really have a camera just yet. Sal's name's cleared. Ravi and Pip, they end up being a team, you know, going into these journeys and these mysteries together, you know. Team Ravi and Pip, you know, against the world. They end up being together and all that good stuff. They ended up being an unstoppable team, an amazing team together. They end up doing a school play and the situation of Sal and Andy and all that good stuff, getting the story, the word, every ticket, every seat in the house was full. It's all good stuff. You know, she was getting her story out there, letting Sal and Andy's voice be heard through her. They ended up doing a memorial, a second one, lighting the lanterns, letting them float into the sky. You know, that type of situation like from Tangled, you know, Rapunzel, those type of things, you know. Sorry about that. And as much as I would like to say they had a happy ending, they really don't. Pip and Ravi don't have a good ending. They end up having another case in the next book. But we're not going to talk about that one today. We'll talk about that one later. I have finished it. I just want to make sure I get all my P's and Q's together properly a little better. But yeah, it was a very good book. So now that I've talked about what happens in the book a little bit here and there, I'm going to give you my insight on how I felt about it. So the book was really, really good. Beautiful book. Absolutely gorgeous. I personally could not put it down. I hated having to go to work every day because I would have to put my book down. Thankfully, most of the time I was working the third shift, and where I work, it's really dead. So I was able to read it third shift as long as I got all my work done. So it ended up only taking me a week to read the book, so it was actually really good. That tells you how good it was. I mean, it's a decent I think maybe 253 pages, maybe a little bit more, maybe around the 300 range, but I know book 3 is like 455 pages. I'm not too sure on second off the top of my head. But it was a very good book. Absolutely beautifully written by Holly Jackson. I give her W's for that all the way. I personally would definitely recommend this book to anybody that likes true crime stories or situations like that. It's a young adult book, so teenagers can read it. Don't give it to a child, please, for the love of God, don't give it to a child. But yeah, I think it was a beautiful book. Absolutely gorgeously put it together. It was very interesting, very, some big words, not too big of words. I do have a learning disability, so reading sometimes can be a complication with me. There's times that I will actually look up the words, seeing, hey, what happened? What does this word mean? Hello. Like, Brethanol, like I said, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not a doctor. So big words. So if I'm not pronouncing that word right or some of the characters' names, please definitely do correct me. I know I'm pronouncing Pip right because that's a 3-letter word. Ravi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right either, so, but that's the way I hear it, so I do believe I'm pronouncing his name right. I hope so. Book was very good. I ended up finding out they ended up doing a TV series on it through Netflix. I did watch that, by the way. I did watch that, and I will do a review on it too as well through this. The TV series was actually pretty good. It wasn't great, though. There was a lot of Q's and points of views they were missing, but not many, oddly enough, because sometimes when TV will make a TV series about it, they will miss a lot of main characters, main pinpoints and situations like that. I mean, they did rush it into the series. They did rush the series along. It was only like maybe 5-10 episodes total, I do believe. I can actually look it up real quick. Good Girls Guide to Murder series, Netflix. It's only 1 season long. How many episodes? Six episodes total for the whole thing. I have watched. Like I said, I did watch it. It was actually pretty good. They could have put a little bit more into it. But, you know, they can't put everything into it. It's not a thing. Unfortunately, the books are always better than TV shows. But a lot of people would rather just watch the show and not read the book. But I'm telling you what, you're missing out on a lot of stuff when you read the book, when you just watch the show. There's a lot of things in the book that you're missing. You know, there's a lot of cues and pinpoints and situations that you're missing when you're not reading the book. But I definitely I would recommend the series too, the TV series. It's actually not that horrible. I do hope they actually do a coverage on book 2 and 3, even though, you know, it's lowers my standards. I still hope they do cover the next 2 books in the series. The next book we'll talk about is A Good Girls. I don't remember what the second book was called. This is horrible. Good Girls Guide to Murder series. Good Girl, Bad Blood. That's book 2, and then book 3 is book 3, because I did finish all 3 of the books recently. As Good as Dead. That one was actually pretty good too. We'll talk about that later. And same with the book 2. We'll talk about that one tomorrow. Possibly, maybe not tomorrow, because I have an actual really, really long shift. I'm going in at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I don't come out till midnight. But, yeah. Definitely a recommended book. I did find out, I do believe they're on audiobooks as well, if you're more of a wanting to listen than read it. I definitely recommend looking into it. It was definitely worth it. It was definitely worth the read, and beautiful characters. I really got attached to the characters, especially Pip and Ravi. I got attached to the relationship. I thought it was great, especially being that young in school. I miss being in school. So, yeah, it was a very good book. I would recommend it to anybody. All right, guys. So this is going to be the end of this one. I will come back and see you guys again soon. Hopefully not as long as last time's wait. I do apologize for that. Like I said, work has been hectic. It's been slightly crazy. I will try to make another video here very, very soon and talk about book 2. All right. See you guys.